Hi.
Hey, how's it going, Vince?
Yeah, man. It's going. So, we're here to talk about Adepticon. We're out driving again, so this will be another one of these things. We have a new little holder thing for the phone.
I feel very up close to the camera.
But it's farther back. Like, that is to say, this is reaching out more, but I don't know, man. If it works, it works. We'll see. Anyway, so we're going to talk about Adepticon and our experience here. Obviously, it's ending. We're driving back. Obviously, we had two very distinct experiences here. Since you participated in everything I didn't participate in.
Yeah, and pretty much vice versa.
Right. So, I think we'll probably talk, given the guest that'll be on the show this week, I think we're going to focus mainly on picture shaky, but fine. Okay, well.
Yeah, that's because
I suspect that's probably the nature of the beast here.
The camera is attached to a car.
Also that. The long arm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It bounces.
So anyway, enough of that. Let's just get to this. So Adepticon is wrapped up. We're driving back. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, just a quick overview. Adepticon is the largest wargaming convention in the U.S. It's about, I would guess it was probably 3,000, 3,500 people this year. I mean, I didn't see any official attendance numbers yet, but it's real big. It's a great convention. It's run by a lot of really passionate people who put together really a pretty smooth show.
Yeah.
Overall, they attract great vendors. There's a lot of good games. There's space to hang out. The hotel is good. The venue's good. The people are good. It's the type of thing that I would say if you can get to it, you should get to it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Regardless, by the way, of what you're playing.
Agreed.
I mean, the 40K tournament is ridiculous. What do they have, 500 players this year or something?
Yeah, but it's like a 4-person team tournament.
Well, I mean, whatever, man. I don't know. It was crazy. That's the point. So, and they also had there was a bunch of Star Wars. So AOS moved up big this year. So they ended up with 190 something registered, right? And then
192 registered, 168, 165, something
like that. Yeah, actually
showed up on day one.
Which isn't surprising. I mean, and it's something of that size, you're always going to get a fair number.
Yeah, and some American events are a little bit different because oftentimes for the GTs that are at conventions, you'll often get drops between day one and day two.
Sure.
And so I think we ended on the last day with 120 some people.
No, it was more than that.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said it was at least 140 something made it all the way to the end.
Yeah.
To the end of the gauntlet, the endurance match.
Yeah, I mean,
you played 14 games of AOS in the last 4 days?
Yeah, I did.
That's real.
Yeah, 14 games.
Full games, yeah.
Full games. It's 3 hour to 2:45. Yep. Yeah, it was, Thursday there was 2 Vanguard events, 3 game events, one in the morning, one in the evening. And by evening, I mean from 9 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. And the game wrapped up 2:45.
Right.
And then at 3, we registered for the event that started at 3:30 Dice Town.
Yep.
I got up at 8 down in the hall, and I didn't eat until 10:45 that night.
Yeah. It was a long day.
Yeah.
You were, that was a hardcore day. Even 6 games of 1,000-point Warhammer back to back to back to back in a single. That's a lot of games of Warhammer. So do you want to, I'm not going to ask you to, don't blow by blow the 1,000 points.
No, and the reality is this, folks. I wish I could remember all the Warhammer I played. I don't.
Sure.
I rolled a lot of dice. I had a really tight, I was just talking about the list. I mean, I talk about the list because that's...
Sure, what'd you bring for your 1,000 points?
Well, I started in the morning with, it was a nice tight little 4-drop list.
Okay.
And it was a unit of 30 Volkites. So I ended up playing mixed order actually all weekend.
Yep.
All weekend. And I didn't really anticipate that. I was going to do some pure KO. And it just, So the first day set the tone for the rest of the weekend, is what I would say. I ran, so the list was 30 Volkites with a Rune Smiter, clocking in at 410 points. And then I had a 120 points 10-man group of Arcanaut Company. I had a 30, or not a 30, a unit of 9 Skywardens with all guns. And then we had and then the last thing was a chemist as my general with Inspiring and Phoenix Stone.
Here, we're gonna fix this real quick. Hold on, everybody. Pause. If this is happening again. Sorry about that. We're back. Hopefully.
Okay. An Aether chemist. And I performed pretty well in the morning. Game 2, I hit Relian. Thanks, Relian. And that was a brutal. That was a brutal game. We played to a draw. It was an excellent game. Like truly, like. We killed it, it was like knife to the heart, and it broke to points, and we had killed the exact same number of points in units. So it was pretty epic. And as Relian said, I couldn't have, wished for it to go kind of any other way. Like it was the perfect game. It was a great matchup. So I played Relian in the morning. I amongst my matchups, I played like a Free People's player. Again, all those games kind of blended together. Dave Griffin, I played him I think in the evening. Yeah, it was just a good.
Let's talk about outcome, because that's what's relevant. How'd you do the first day?
In the morning Vanguard, I took 3rd in overall. So it was about 56 people. I took 3rd. In like overall, I also took in the morning 3rd in sports, and I took 2nd or 3rd in painting. It wasn't clear. They only announced 1st, but in talking to the judges, I was either 2nd or 3rd for painting as well.
So strong.
So strong podium showing. And then for the PM, I took 4th and 2nd or 3rd in painting again. So, Steve Herner showed up in the morning, and so he took best appearance. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get in the evening. And then Kit Bleep Bloop slipped in.
Yep.
He submarined in, stealthed in, and took best appearance in the evening, and just snaked it. Man, his stuff's beautiful.
Yeah, Bleep Bloop has an amazing army. If you're a part of the PMP, you've seen Bleep Bloop's death stuff. He had it here. He didn't have Manfred, which was in White Dwarf some time ago.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous stuff.
To answer the question, I played KO units. I didn't play pure KO. I played mixed order all weekend.
Right.
And so things were my list went so well, and I was so impressed with the performance of my Skywardens that I went, I want more of this. And so when I teamed up with Kenny the next day, Kenny Lowell, the long beard of the Fire Slayers who
celebrated his 200th game.
With
Fire Slayers.
Celebrated his 200th game with Fire Slayers today. Huge accomplishment. So kudos to you if you're watching this. So we played on Thursday or Friday as in teams. I was really hoping that Kenny and I could help help Kenny bring home some medals.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
Alas, it was not to be.
It was not to be. We ran into we had a pretty rough second game, is what I would say, and it wasn't anything of our fault. There was some fast and loose play with some rules that I didn't catch because it wasn't on my side of the table, and when all that happened, when I started observing what was going on, I kind of interacted and found out that they were not playing according to the rules.
Sure.
But we had moved on. Kenny had been wiped off the table at that point. We had moved on to the next turn, and yeah. So we ended up having a major loss. But ironically, like, I ended up fighting us back to a draw. So, or like an almost a draw is what I would say. We ended up taking a major loss, but I was a 4-up save away from us scoring a draw. So, or minor, yeah. Anyways, yeah. So that, I mean, it went well, but it is what it is.
Sure.
Kenny and I didn't do very well in teams, but yeah, and we had two major max victory. Like, to be clear, we had 2 max victory wins, secondaries and tertiaries,
Right.
and then we had a major loss.
So my question is, didn't you win a sports award at some point in time?
Yeah, that was the morning AM on Thursday. That's why I said third in sports.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, like, you won a sports award. That seems strange.
Well, they said there was like a 19-way tie.
Well, and then it broke on the other thing, so sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the
So
only
you clearly
reason
had the other strong performance.
why. Sure.
That's just funny to me. Yes, sorry, sports as in sportsmanship, yes. Tom and good sportsmanship. Like, Tom's always a good sport, don't get me wrong. It's just playing Tom is never fun. Like, I pity the 14 people that had to suffer through playing you this week.
When David Griffin, when I saw his name on the list,
Yeah,
I called across the hall. I was like, David!
Sure.
And he was like, and I ruined his evening Thursday night. So,
Sure.
We had fun. It was good. I love rolling dice with David. But yeah, I mean, the reality is this. I wanted, like, whenever I go to any event, I want to, like, I've told you this, Vince, like, I want to compete in all categories. My goal is to have a good showing in whatever, in there, and I felt like I did.
yeah. No, absolutely. So do you want to talk about the actual GT?
Sure.
I mean, the team event overall, you didn't, no placing worth speaking about happened in the team event, but that's fine. It's a team event. It's different sort of thing.
Yeah, and they played some of the Coalition of Death scenarios. Which
yeah, you guys
really,
did the minute deployment thing.
And Kenny and I did our entire deployment in 1 minute with like 15 seconds to spare.
Nice. Well, it's good that you had practice doing that. Otherwise, you.
Well, no, we were just like deep strike, deep strike, deep strike.
Sure.
Or I'm sorry, tunnel, tunnel, tunnel. And here's 2 heroes and some Arcanon company on the table.
Sure. Well, they probably also allowed you to use the movement.
No.
Oh no, no movement trace. All right.
No. And that was the game that we had a rough rules interaction.
How'd that whole because you let them take whatever time they wanted. What did your opponent bid with that Cunning Ruck, by the way? How many minutes?
4 minutes.
I figured.
And they were down in 4.
No, I mean, sure.
I mean, like,
You should be able to put any army on the table in 4 minutes. That's a long time. That's 240 seconds.
Yeah.
Turn around, pick it up, put it down. Turn around.
I mean, to their credit, they had a couple smaller units. Like my opponent, the Corn, like it was the son and his dad. I matched up with we set our stuff down, Kenny and I did. The dad set up across from me, Kenny, the son set up across from Kenny. The Cunning Ruck was across from Kenny, so it was like a big block of shooters, 10 orcs, and then the buffing, like the support stuff. Across from me was like 2 Bloodthirsters, a Bloodstoker, 30 Bloodletters, and 10 Marauders. So, I mean, that's still a lot of models. That's like 100 models in 4 minutes. So
okay.
They didn't.
Yeah, it's like certainly lots of people were allowed to use movement trace. By the way, just to clarify, it's just for this particular game, since there was the interesting setup bid mechanic, you couldn't use it. This thing is gonna freaking kill me. I'm gonna be so. Come on, just stay up.
You hear that a lot?
All the time. Seriously, this is ridiculous.
Sorry.
How do you not buy good ones of these ever?
I don't know.
I blame you.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. So,
Sorry, folks.
for another 2 minutes. So talk about the GT.
Yeah, so it was 5 games. It was a mix of scenarios from the JHP 2016, 2017, including a number of alterations to even those scenarios to make them just a little bit different. There were 7 secondary objectives. You chose 1 per game until you had used, like basically you'll have 5 of the 7 that you'll have used over the course of the entire event. And they all had tertiary objectives as well. So, for example, like an example of what a tertiary objective was, would be something like in Scorched Earth. If you burned an enemy point, gain a bonus point.
Yeah.
Okay. If the first objective you burned was with a battle line unit, gain 2 points.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, and so the each round is worth basically 18 points, 12 for the major victory, 4 for the for your secondary objective, which is those mini side missions. They were things like your general does more damage than their general, or you killed or caused to flee more units than they did of like hero, priest, or not hero, like priest, mage, totem, a bunch of those keywords.
Yep.
Or things like you flew a unit to the enemy's long edge of the board and left the board.
Sure.
Stuff like that. And like you couldn't teleport or air, you couldn't tunnel or deep strike or anything on that secondary objective. So yeah, so lots of tactical plays. Yeah, it was there was a lot going on.
Sure. So do you want to talk? Well, I mean, we should just go straight to the end of like you can go back, but we should talk about how you ended overall.
Well, let me start with the first game, because the first game really set the tone for this whole ordeal.
Okay.
I played Star Strike with one of the Detroit Club members, and it was I played a Sylvaneth army. I think one of them said that he was very early in playing this. It was actually one of my 1K opponents, like one of the opponents I had played the prior day, but I actually had a minor victory instead of a major victory, which is what bumped me out of the running on the evening, on the PM Vanguard. And it ended up
it's just fine, Kenny.
Kenny,
It was a good time.
I had a great time, dude. I love teaming with you. It was fantastic.
Let's answer the important question. Is Kenny a more fun partner than me?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, that's not surprising. I mean, I would expect the answer to be yes.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
No.
Kenny's actually nice to you.
It's true. He was very reasonable.
Yeah.
Anyways, you are. No, so I played a Sylvaneth player, and basically it was a Star Strike, and we only got to turn 3.
Sure.
And at the beginning of turn 3, the secondaries drop in squares, and it was squares already controlled by him. So that didn't break my way. And we didn't have enough time to finish the game. Unfortunately, I had most of my long guns, like all my heavy damage, still on the table. So I really think I could have pulled it out. But, yeah. So I suffered a major loss at game 1. The top of the tournament, game 1, suffered a major loss. I scored my secondary, and I scored the max tertiary, because it was holding the center objective with a battle line unit at the end of the game.
Right.
Which I did. So I had Volkite still standing on it. So that happened.
Yep.
And I went deep into the bottom tables. Which was not the most enjoyable place. This is not the best way to start a 2-day event.
That's exactly how you want to start a 2-day event. You got some points, and then the submarining begins. That's what happened.
Yeah, that is what happened.
Yeah.
So let me talk about my list real quick. So it wouldn't be Adepticon if I literally wasn't changing my list at 11:30 the night before.
Which you did.
Which I did again. So I basically took an expanded version of my mixed order list that I took on for the 2 Vanguard events, and I enjoyed that list so much, by the way, that's what I took to the teams event with Kenny.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it so much with Kenny that it was a mini form of my 2,000 point list. And basically I ran with the heart of my army was 3 blocks of 30 dwarves. Okay, so I ran 30 Volkites, 30 Longbeards, and 30 Arcanaut Company.
Yep.
Those are my battle line.
A nice representation of all the dwarves.
Right, and that's what my army was. Like, my army was mixed, and it just came together, and so all of the dwarves were there. In the Fireslayer contingent, backing up the Volkites, I had a Rune Smiter, obviously, for deep strike and that reroll wounds.
Yep.
That sweet reroll wounds. It also let me have, in the Dispossessed, I ran the Dispossessed aspect of it, I ran a Rune Lord. Actually, it's my general, by the way. So I ran a 5 wound hero with a 4-up save as my general.
Okay.
With no command ability, by the way. To be very clear. Yeah, that was, he never died.
Well, there you go.
No, I take it back. No, he did die once. He died in game 2, but I'll talk about that. Yeah, he survived a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he did. Because there's a real thing people have about how every time we talk about a 5-wound hero,
Yep.
okay, in a list, as a general, I see the discussion immediately turn to like, oh, he's just going to get removed. Do you know how many games I see go by where the 5-wound hero lives to the end? Most of them. Most of them.
Right.
Because it's actually really hard for people to remove characters like that. Because range is a thing.
And buildings are things.
And buildings are things. And terrain is a thing.
Yep.
Like, synergy is a thing. There's lots of reasons why.
Yep.
And it's not that they can't be sniped. Yeah, sure. There are some terrible situations where, like, you face a KO opponent or something and they're going to be able to just extract your heroes out from your army. Like, it's not that that's never going to happen. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, there's a ton of armies in the meta that don't even have anything other than, like, whatever ranged spell they can manifest.
Yep. Yep.
And you can absolutely control whether or not your character's in range of that, right? Yeah, okay. Anyway, sorry.
No, I agree.
Over.
I agree. So I ran a Rune Lord as my general. For those that don't know Rune Lord, like the Rune Lord Longbeard synergy. Longbeards are actually a way undervalued unit. Like, a lot of people, like, even those people that are wanting to do something similar to what I was doing, they run Dwarf Warriors. Dwarf Warriors are 280 for 40 models. I like the Longbeards better. Longbeards are 30 models for 300 points. You're going to lose 10 models, pay 20 more points. But what you get is you get a dwarf that's like a 7 bravery, 4-up save base with a great weapon and a shield. It's funny because it's a thing still, apparently. Yep. It is even on War Scroll Builder. And it's their base profile for their attacks is 4s and 3s, neg 1 rend 1 damage, which seems okay.
Sure.
But the real magic, their standard bearer lets you reduce, like, have all battle shock losses.
Yep.
So if you're in generic order, you're already re-rolling failed battle shocks. So it helps minimize if you ever find yourself in a position without a general, without the ability to grant battle shock immunity and stuff like that. They can grumble, which they can give themselves an additional, like, 5-up, prevent fleeing whenever they battle shock a model. Or what I used it for almost the entire tournament was they can grumble in the hero phase and give themselves a reroll 1s to wound.
Right.
You couple that with the Rune Lord who's backing these guys. The Rune Lord on a 2-up every hero phase grants them increases their rend by 1.
Right.
So now they're 4s and 3s, reroll 1s with neg 2 rend.
Right.
I have 30 of those bodies on the table. Heaven forbid somebody come in on those guys when they're buffed up and,
sure,
dressed to the nines. So, and then if I want on the Rune Lord, I could also instead give them a 6-up ward save. My game against Nurgle, my game 4, I ended up doing that to help kind of mitigate some of the incoming mortal wounds that were coming in. And
sure. So then you've got 2 6-ups because you've got that and your Luminarch.
Yeah, I'm not to the Luminarch yet, but yes. And so
yeah, I know we're gonna take 3 hours talking about your freaking army here. Get it out.
Okay, sorry. So the Rune Lord that I ran also has a +2 unbind, like 1 unbind at +2 every round, which is like really good. Sure. In the meta with Nurgle and with Naga or with Death and all that stuff. So yeah, it went really well. Sense of Dispossessed, and then my KO, which is the largest portion of my army, was 30 Arcanaut Company. I ran 2 Chemists in this list and 9 Skywardens. So 30 company, Skywardens, 2 chemists. Originally, it was like other stuff. Like I started with riggers, and this is what changed. Originally, it was riggers and like a night of zeros,
Right.
and 1 chemist. And then I just realized wardens are great, and actually having the dual threat of that 36-inch threat range on those, having them splash mortals with the neg-3 rend, which is a great solution to really hard units like 2-up rerollable.
Yep.
That neg-3 rend does work.
Sure.
And the fact that now I had 24-inch threat from the Arcana Company and 24-inch threat from these guys, and by dropping that, instead of doing the Night of Zeros, I could actually do a second chemist, which I had redundancy then with the chemists. Chemists themselves, in short range, have really good shooting.
Sure.
So that was the change I made last minute, and it paid off big time. And then I also, backing all of that, I had a Luminarch. Luminarchs are a gem for those that have not discovered them. They're 240 points for like 11 wound hero.
Right.
With a 10 base move, so they're great for something like Duality of Death.
Come with a wizard who's got a pretty decent spell.
The wizard that has a spell that's an
has a super sweet laser gun on it.
Yeah, yes, it's basically, it's a wizard with a spell that does 3d3 mortal wounds to 20 or more units with 20 or more models.
Right.
So it's a good solution against like hordes.
Yep.
Because it'll put some damage on the target. They also have a +1 unbind. They grant themselves a +1 to their unbind as a wizard, and it can also be a Mystic Shield.
Yep.
It projects a 10-inch ward save around it.
Yep.
So like those Longbeards are like, the other thing about the Longbeards is if they don't run or charge, they have rerollable saves. They reroll failed, so they're 4-up rerollable, and so now they're like 4-up rerollable. If I buff them with a Mystic Shield and have that thing backing them, they're like 3-up rerollable and 6-up ward save.
Yep.
Or the Volkites, if I buff them, are like 3s, 4s, and 6s, which is they'll shake some damage.
Sure.
As too many of my opponents discovered. And on top of that, they have a 30-inch range on this 10-inch move Luminarch. They have a 30-inch range shot, 3s and 3s, neg-2 rend, 6 flat damage when it doesn't take damage.
Right.
And I ran
when it's whole.
When it's whole. When it's more than 3 wounds, like when it's 0 to 2
on its
wounds.
first tier.
Yeah, on its first tier. I ran the Phoenix Stone, by the way, with it. Great item. The Phoenix Stone, they was changed in GHB 2017. It heals a wound in every player's hero phase now, instead of only your own hero phases.
Right.
And so, like, if I take 3 wounds, or even 4 wounds, by the time it ticks back to me, if it's in every other turn, I'm back up to full power.
Right.
The laser's fully charged again. As my my game 4 opponent discovered, much to their chagrin. That's the list. It doesn't look like much on paper. It's just a bunch of mixed dwarves. It's 8 drops, but it has all the tools. It has 2 hard blocks. It has a very hard anvil in the Longbeards. It has a mobile anvil in the Volkites. They can draw out some mortal wounds when they charge with their shield. They have rend. All of them have rend. There's
So
shooting and mobility and just all of it. It's all the tools you need.
here's my question for you.
Yep.
You bang on about drops all the time. Okay?
I do.
Yet you ran this 8 drop.
Yep.
And I'm sure it changed the way you played.
Oh my. Like I played 5 games in that event, and I had to completely change tactics at least 3 times.
Sure.
So I had to remain super flexible.
Yep.
Deployment would win or lose the game every time with an 8 drop list.
Sure.
Yep.
And yet you were able to still deploy it in a way that didn't like immediately lose you the game or anything nonsensical.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say is this. The advantage of this list is that it has the ability to punish your enemy if they force you to go first or if they make you go second.
Sure. I guess my real question is, does this cause you to reevaluate your laser focus on drops?
Not at all.
It should, but all right, that's fine. You can learn 0 lessons. Continue.
No, I mean, I would just say that it, no, because the, it's always better to be more assured of having that option.
I'm not saying it's not. I didn't say it's not better.
Yeah.
It just like you often weight. What I'm saying is, I believe you overweight it. Okay? Like you talk about it a lot, like, well, that list isn't tenable because it's 7 drops. you just ran an 8-drop list and pulled out 4 majors and probably would have gotten another win had you not ended at turn 3. None of that had to do with deployment. In one of the toughest fields you're going to play in, period. Again, I'm not saying it has 0 weight.
Sure.
I'm saying it doesn't. You're ascribing it a weight of 10 units. I'm not saying it's 0. I'm saying it's 3.
Sure.
Or whatever. Okay? So I'm just saying you may want to wheel that back.
What I would say is this. You have to have a list that's flexible. There are
Sure.
some lists that are not flexible enough to do that. This really was like an all-comers, like, utility knife list. That's how it was built.
Yes, but aren't those going to tend to be the ones that go high drops?
Yeah,
because
probably.
the skewish lists that are more focused are going to be the ones built around battalions that let them 1 drop.
Yeah.
Whereas the broad utility lists are going to be the ones that do have the better response regardless of the situation.
Sure.
And again, like, it doesn't mean you can just deploy willy-nilly. Like, you need to be smart about it. And it's going to up the requirement for you to be smart about it, right?
Yeah. It's harder to play a list like that because you're literally changing tactics on the fly as you sit at the table, look at the scenario, and look at your fit.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Where,
you
like,
mean like how a good player should do?
Sure.
Okay. Cool.
Well, I mean, but it's fair enough.
Just checking.
Yeah. No. Fair enough. I mean, yes, it's not rinse repeating the same tactic over and over again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, I'd love to get to the results, but Tom is slow playing us here. Listening to Tom talk about his results is exactly like playing Tom in real life. If this is what it's like to play against Tom too, this is a very similar experience.
Thanks. Okay, so anyways, game 2 put me at bottom tables, and as if like karma wasn't biting me in the ass enough, I sat across a player who was rolled up with a Zilfin Clown Car.
Yeah, sure.
They took a major loss in the first game, and they informed to tell me how they like interact with Gary Percival and how they, they're all, and he could tell clearly I knew about KO, but he's like, "Are you on the forums?" And he, we setup ended up being very important in that game.
Sure.
I put my my Rune Lord in the bottom left corner. It was a 3 places of power actually, which is inherently a bad scenario for KO.
Sure.
It is a terrible scenario for KO. And I put my one of my general in the smallest corner, like farthest away, and then I stretched my Arcanine Company the entire length of the table, 1 inch apart, about 3 inches in front of him, and then on the line, I stretched my Longbeards the entire length of the table. Both were within 6 inches of the, I had to tail back, so they're all Battle Shock immune. And then 2/3 down the table the other way, I had a Chemist, followed by the Luminarch, all back board edge.
Right.
So Chemist, Luminarch. On the other side of the Luminarch, where the Luminarch was blocking line of sight, I had another Chemist. And then on the other side, about 10 inches past, I had my 9 Skywardens. The Volkites were deep struck.
Right.
Or were tunneling. And so it forced the KO player to make a decision. He could either go for the bulk of my heroes.
Yep.
And my guns, my Skywards, or he could go for my general who grants Battle Shock immunity.
Right.
You get one or the other, you don't get both. And I forced him to make a decision. And so I knew that the situation was looking up. Let me say that. When he airdropped, he Zilfin airdropped onto the objective in 3 places of power.
Sure.
For those of you who don't know, all the scenarios say that you have to move on the objective to claim it. A setup is not a move. And the FAQ makes this very clear. And when he airdropped, I said, "Are you airdropping or are you Zilfin moving?" And he goes, "I'm airdropping." And I said, "Are you sure?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, just to be clear, you are airdropping, you do not want to move on to it. And he said, "Correct, I do not want to do that." Okay. So then he pops out the ship and proceeds to do all the shooting and all that. And we get to the end of the turn, and he puts 4 wounds on the Rune Spider.
Yep.
With his 6-up, armor save, or his 4-up save. Doesn't kill him. Riggers go into the.
You mean the Wardens?
His riggers. His riggers go into my Longbeard to try to do some damage, and my company and try to do some damage. And I take from the other end of the table, so it's not actually changing my firepower where he's at.
Right.
And then I shoot off a bunch of stuff when I retort at the bottom of, or at the top of my turn. And then I drop Volkites in his back, like on the back edge of where he's at. Drop my Rune Smiter in the middle of the table on the second objective. Run my Luminarch to the third, like so the farthest away from him.
Right.
Shooting lasers and all that stuff. And I double turn him, shoot off the clown car, I retreat out of the fucking Endernaggers. Don't want anything to do with them. And I played a smart game, and he didn't. He tactically made some mistakes. Like even though he piled all of his heroes out, he didn't. He piled all his heroes out of the ship, but he never moved with them, never piled in, never did anything. And so, like, I locked them with the Volkites, and they couldn't move, so they could never claim the objective.
Right. Because the key is, so for those of you, like, this happened in Doom and Darkness as well.
Yeah.
The key is, in a couple of the scenarios, you have to literally move onto the point to take it. And a setup isn't a move. So if you set up directly on a point and don't actually move onto it, which in some cases you're barred for moving, given certain setup.
Yeah, like
mechanics.
the Zilfin Clown car, if you use your, like, Aether Sphere, like Aetherspheric engines, you set up on the point. You don't claim that point then.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you don't move onto it in some way, you don't actually have claim on it and hence won't get the points. This happened to Doom and Darkness in like Game 5 of CanCon, where I think it was with his Vermin Lord Deceiver, because that's a reset up the Deceiver X inches away, and I think he did that and then never was able to claim the point because then he got locked in and couldn't go anywhere.
Yep.
So like he just was stuck from actually.
Yeah, he never was able to fulfill the requirement. Right. Which is move on to the point.
Yeah, it's one of those like I'll be honest, I hate that.
Yeah.
Like, that is such a gamey thing.
Well, and I asked him, like...
No, I understand. You did the right thing.
And not only that, like, we got to the point where he chose his units to select to pile in.
Right.
And I asked him, which unit would you like to pile in first? And he went after his Endernaggers.
Sure.
And I went, okay, well, I'll choose the Volkites then, and I'll lock your Admiral.
Everybody got locked, yes.
Yeah, like...
once you had base to base, they couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, all he had to do was move his Admiral and pile it in first, and it would have claimed the point.
Sure. No, I understand. Like, I'm not saying it is what it is, right? Yeah. Like there were other choices your opponent could have made.
Yep.
It's just one of those like super gamey things.
Yep.
That bothers the living bejesus out of me, where like the game quickly diverges from common sense. But whatever. I mean, by the rules, you are absolutely correct. And even on a deeper level, you went above and beyond to like verify with him at all points in time.
Yes.
And try to get him to make a different choice, but you can't play his game for him. Like in the end, in a big tournament like this, you gotta, like.
Yeah, it got to a point where he was trying to explain to me how the KO works, like about the setup and all that, and how the claiming the point. And I had to go to a rules judge, and Dave Witek was sitting there, and I walked up to Dave and I said, I need a judge. You know, he demanded a judge. And I said, absolutely. Well, we'll go get a judge.
Which is always the right thing to do. If there's a dispute, don't argue it out. You just go get a judge.
Yep. I said, that's fine. I went to get a judge. Dave Witek said, what's the issue? And I said, my opponent's trying to explain to me how KO works.
Sure.
And he was like, I'll go get Alex. So, I mean, it went well. Like,
Your game 3.
My game 3. I maxed that game. And I rolled up to my table 25. So I started in like 80s and went to 60s and jumped up to table 25 and matched up with Kenny Lull.
Yeah. Your previous partner from the day before ends up randomly being your opponent. That's amazing. Like what a...
And I'd helped Kenny rebase his army.
This is 160 plus people.
Yeah, and I matched up with Kenny. So I explained to Kenny that we had some grudges to settle.
Yeah, sure.
From the prior day.
Sure.
So... I set up across from Kenny, and it was so funny because I'd helped him like rebase his army in my scheme, and so like it literally looked like all the
I walked by this table, I could not tell the difference. It was ridiculous. It looked like a civil war was happening. Like one army was fighting itself. Like there was just, I mean, I understand you actually have some differences. Like if I got close, I could see,
like who,
like you had your Longbeards who were in armor and stuff like that. But from a distance, that board is lava. Like that board looked like lava bases and orange hairdos. Right? Like, that's
Yep.
it. Because you both have you have similar mohawks.
We do.
In
We do.
coloration.
Like, he's
right?
more red, but yeah, I agree.
But again,
Yeah.
like, in that, at a table from 3 feet away, like, I walked by the table and I was like, where's the other army? It's just, there's only one army on this table.
Yep. Kenny was running. I mean, we were playing kind of a fun game. Like, we both, we were deep in the table. We weren't high up, and we were, joking around and doing some narrative, like, and grudges. And Kenny was doing like some random, like, what am I gonna tunnel? And so he went with a unit of Volkites and decided he 50-50 decided to tunnel his Grim Wrath instead of another unit. He's running the Lord's Lodge, so he's running 2 units of Volkites. With 30, he used all axes. He didn't use any shields. And he had the Auric, like the Poleaxe, Mortal Wound, Terrifying Berserkers.
Yeah.
Which in Lord's Lodge, double pilot.
Yep.
He had a Runefather on Magmadroth. He had all the supporting heroes that you'd expect. And he had a small 5/5 of the Auric shooters.
Yep.
And so he sets up across from me. And as only somebody who has recently played with me could do, he looks at me and goes, "You can take first turn."
Sure.
Thanks, Kenny. So I, because, and by the way, I didn't tunnel any of my Volkites. Like, I set up like a very dwarven head,
Sure.
like formation. This is where I developed. I realized a tactic. I developed a tactic that I would use later in my 4th game, which was I did a ring of Volkites around the outside. Like, I did because it was Knife to the Heart, where you're like trying to take their home base, which is a very hard tournament.
It's an often draw when you
drops. Put everything down.
Would you say it was a ring of fire?
It was a ring of fire. And I put like 1 inch between each of my Volkites. Yeah, so the Longbeard's on 25 mils. And so it actually like ended up being a very threatening kind of Longbeards. And I did them, and then I did my, just a bunch of block formations, everybody ringed by the Fire Slayers. I knew I needed to keep his Deep Strikers out. I left a gap in the back left corner that was a choke point, like where the tower came to the edge of the board. I was using the tower as kind of a choke point, and I put 1 Berserker on the very edge of the tower corner, and I knew that it would force him to, it would force him to have to wedge through this area, and it would be a great place to kind of to bait him into deep striking.
Sure.
And Kenny, being the always a gentleman, obliged.
Sure, he took the bait.
He took the
Sorry,
bait.
Kenny.
Sorry,
oh my
Kenny.
God. With this thing, Tom.
Sorry.
This is the worst thing you've ever gotten. Worse than the last one that I had to hold the whole time. I want you to know.
I
that.
think you just haven't tightened it on the back. Thanks, Vince.
Okay.
Or they're Indiana roads. Thanks, Indiana. And so what we ended up doing, so they come in and they kill. He put some wounds on my Luminarch with a long charge, some on the Volkites, and then I just turned all my short-range guns onto him and shot the Volkite unit off the table and turned.
Sure.
And he sent another Volkite unit in because my front line had advanced to the point where it was going to threaten him. And he, I had enough 24-inch range guns, he had to come to me. And so he obliged. And I shot the other Volkite unit off the table. We're in game 3, Rob. And then I proceeded to do the same with the Auric Hearth Guard as well. So it was just, the reality is this list that I'm running is an it can do gunline really well. It has an outrageous number of short-range shooting shots.
Right.
The pistols, if I have it all hedged up together, the Volkites have 30 throwing axes at 8 inches.
Right.
On 4s and 4s. The Arcanite Company have 43 pistol shots on 4s and 4s.
Uh-huh.
They also have 18 light skyhooks on 4s, 3s, Neg 2 Ren, D3. Yep. They have 3s and 3 anti-everything lists. Thank you. My Sky Wardens have a couple pistols at 3s and 3s.
Sure.
They have a bunch of 24-inch 4s and 4s.
Yep.
Drill cannon. So it's a very dangerous 60.
You've got a lot of shooting, a lot of it's short range, but it's still very effective at what it does.
Yeah.
And it's good at killing a lot of infantry, at chewing through large blocks.
Bodies.
Yeah.
And I knew that in our current meta, that's going to be the hotness. Whether I'm facing Change Hosts, whether I'm facing Fire Slayers, whether I'm facing Nurgle,
Legion,
Death,
Daughters, sure. There's a lot of there's a lot of armies that can be built to have a lot of bodies.
Have a lot of bodies,
come
and most of them are on like 5-ups.
Sure.
So like mass 4-up shooting is going to do some work in those environments.
Okay.
So so I maxed against Kenny.
Yep.
It was a great game. We had a lot of fun.
Now, originally for your game 4, you thought you were going to play Martin Orlando.
I was lined up against Martin Orlando
when they initially published the list.
Saturday night they published the list. I lined up on Martin Orlando. He was running his standard list that he ran at the
Stormcast.
The Stormcast,
I think a slight change to it, but for the most part, it was what he ran there.
Yeah. And so like I spent a lot of time
you wouldn't shut up about it.
Thinking about how to tackle it and where to go, and fulminators were going to be a problem, and retributors. And,
I want you to know, Martin, if you watch this, that you gave Tom a lot of consternation about what to do with your Stormcast. Like, he banged on about it forever.
I had to figure it out. I had to crack that nut.
Sure.
And I felt like I had a good strategy. I had a good plan that could potentially
And then you woke up to figure out you were playing.
Well, no, I woke up. Hold on. I woke up this morning at 6 in the morning and couldn't get back to sleep and began thinking about deployment. So I laid in bed for an hour awake, thinking about deployment.
You have a problem.
I know I do. And then I get down to the hall, and people had dropped overnight, even in the top 10 tables.
Sure.
And so I got reassigned to table 15 somehow. Everybody dropped down a couple tables. I'm not sure what happened.
Stuff moved around. It's fine.
Stuff moved around.
It's whatever.
Yep.
Not uncommon between Saturday
Especially
and Sunday.
a lot of us were tied still.
Yep.
And so this morning, my first army, I lined up on a plague-touched warband when I rolled up to that table. And I immediately texted Vince and I said, guess what? Carb is a bitch.
Yeah, because you had to play a plague-touched.
Right.
The thing that you annoyed everybody with last year now is the thing that you have to fight through.
Yes. He didn't do a normal plague-touched, or like how I would normally build one of the lighted block Vikings and stuff like that.
Yeah. He relied on a bunch of Marauders, Guo and Rodigus, and Blades of Putrid.
He had 135 Marauders.
It doesn't sound like the right number, but okay.
3 blocks of 35 and a block of 10.
115.
115, sorry. You're right. 3 blocks of 35 and a block of 10.
Nope.
He had a unit of knights, and then like the Harbinger, 2 sorcerers, and that's it. And he was running, but he also was running the Guo, and he was running Rodigus.
Yep.
And so I knew I was going to be able to deep strike. He was going to outdrop me. He had enough bodies he could zone me off. He could run the whole table with his run and charge and +2 movement, and he rolled the stupid +2 movement turn 1
sure
from the wheel, and so just everything, all of it. And so I ran my Volkites, deployed them on the table, the whole length of the table, 1 inch gap between, double stacked the Longbeards halfway. The advantage on this table was there was a tower that blocked line of sight to 95% of the table. Like it was one of the Dreadholds, and it was in the the flat side was facing the corner of the board.
Yeah.
And it was like on the edge of the front of my deployment zone, and it had a little choke point near the edge of the board. And so I put all of my heroes behind that wall, and I knew he would have to break my lines to get back there. And so what I did was from that point on, I stretched a line of Volkites the whole length of the table. I stretched a line of Longbeards the whole length of the table, or not the whole length, I'd say half the length of the table.
Yep.
Stretched my Argonaut Company the whole length of the table, and because I knew they were going to come up the whole front, which he filled up, was going to come, and I need to be able to fight and put pressure on any of the units.
Right.
Luminarch was 2/3 of the way, and whatever. And he made a mistake.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess the Battleshock community thing, but he didn't have a way to make them all Battleshock immune anyways, did he?
No, he didn't. Not at all.
So, I mean, I think the situation would have played out much the same, just with giving you the chance for a double turn, but whatever, go ahead.
Yeah, so what he did was he did this. He went, go.
Right. He gave you first turn, at which point
and this is Scorched Earth, by the way. The reason why I stretched the whole length of the table is that I needed to actually cover all my points.
Right. So you then basically erased was there 1 or 2 Marauder units you erased at the top of one?
At the top of the one, I killed 30. One of the units 35 straight out. I put all my light skyhooks into it.
Yep.
In the other unit of 35, I took down to like 12 models.
Sure.
With battle shock and shooting.
Sure.
And then,
which is basically combat ineffective.
Yeah, and then my Luminarch lined up on a 6 wound sorcerer that was in the back of his line, and I shot him off the table.
Right.
Because Luminarch is a 6 wound, take 2 rend, and so like 3s and 3s, boom, gone. So one of his 2 swords that would cast blades got shot off the table. And yeah, so at that point he ran forward, and I went again. Then like he went, failed blades, and then we rolled initiative. I won, top of 2. I shot off the other rest of that first unit. That's when they had crashed into me, and so I started grinding. He got the wither stave within 12 inches of my line because my lines were stacked the way they were.
Right.
This is the problem with this type of deployment. It protected my stuff, and it worked really well for battle shock immunity. But the consequence is that the entire table, basically, all of my units were affected by a wither stave, which was forcing 6s to reroll 6s to hit.
Yep.
This is a big deal because I was running. Because he was running Plague Touch, I was neg 1 to hit. So like my Volkites, for example, were hitting on 5s, re-rolling 6s.
Yeah.
Which, like, talk about cutting damage.
Sure.
And so that my damage kind of ground to a halt, and I had to rely on my shooting phases to clean up.
Yep.
Which I did. And he was smart. He slammed Rodigus into my line. He slammed his Guo into my line. Just trying to break my stuff.
Just trying to put pressure on.
To put pressure, and it looked like he about, he said, I'll wait to see what initiative looks like going from 2 into 3. But he said, we'll definitely concede. I'll concede if it doesn't look like there's any way I can turn this around. But okay, that's fine. And then he actually made he won initiative and priority into 3 and made some inroads. Basically, he double turned me from 2 to 3.
The important double turn.
2
to 3 is the one that matters.
Basically,
no other double turn matters.
Basically broke my Volkites at that point.
Sure.
They were down to like 9 models or something. So, and I was reducing the line from the far end of the table where Rodigus was into my command center. So it hurt. It was a lot of grinding.
Sure.
The game came down to the end of 5, where like it was Rodigus against my Luminarch.
The ancient grudge.
The ancient grudge, apparently. Where my Luminarch, like, he had killed all my stuff off that point, but couldn't actually move into it after he killed it all off.
Sure.
So he couldn't claim it. It wasn't close enough. And before he could get there, like, I won the priority into 5 and got there with my Luminarch. So I scored it, went up, and basically, like, instead of playing for the draw, he played for the win.
Right.
Which I advised him not to do. Like, I played him, advised him to take the minor loss rather than the major. But he wanted to play for the major, which I told him mathematically was not a good idea, but whatever. And he lost.
Sure.
Yeah, like he literally got my Luminarch down to 1 wound. And it makes 4-up saves. Weird. So that went really well. Like, it went, like, but the problem is I didn't get my tertiary because I couldn't get her over to burn any of his objectives.
Right.
I couldn't get my tertiary.
Yeah, you guys are effectively locked. Yeah.
Yeah. Which you'll hear about
in a minute.
It's going to be relevant
Game
in a minute.
5.
Yeah. So lost 2 points there.
So you won and you majored, but you didn't max. That being the difference.
Right. I was 16 out of 18.
Yep.
So I roll into the final game. Bumped up to like table 9, table 10. Who do I draw? Caleb Walters.
Yep.
For those of you who don't remember Caleb.
He's who you played in the final game last year.
Yeah, on table 2.
He won.
He won that game, and thus won Adepticon
last year. Yep.
Yeah.
Runs still running a very super heavy Skyfire list, despite the
meta change.
The voice change, the meta change, he's still rocking them Skyfires.
Running 18 Skyfires.
In many ways, they never left. They've still offered the same great economical mortal wound shooting.
Yep.
At reasonable prices.
He's running the 18 Skyfires, 30 Marauders, the
Bird and Kairos.
The Kairos, no, just Kairos, not double bird.
Okay.
So Kairos, Gaunt Summoner,
Right.
Shaman.
Yep.
And so he got rid of the other bird as the kind of the cost
Oh,
saver
yeah, the
and,
cost
and
saver.
replaced it with a Shaman.
Sure. Whatever.
Or whatever, yeah. So that happened.
Yeah, and you ended up winning that out. That was actually like
I
you properly removed a bunch of Skyfires very fast and brutally.
we got into a shouting match, and I was telling him, like, I have grudges that I've come to settle.
Sure, not a real shouting match.
Like, no, like a fun size shouting match.
Yeah, to be very
Yeah.
quick, to be super clear about what you were just saying, to steal
Yeah.
your own catchphrase. Like Caleb's a really good dude. Like
Yeah.
he is a hardcore good player who runs a filthy hard as nails list, but he is a very nice guy.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy. I love playing Caleb, and I mean, I don't think he was probably playing as hard as he could have.
Sure, I think by that point he was pretty exhausted. I mean, he even admitted it.
But he wanted to go walk the vendor hall, and so he like YOLO'd into my line
Sure.
at the top of one. Like, I set it up so that he would come crashing. I had a great building to block line of sight to all my heroes again. So I set them up.
He was either going to win fast or lose fast, I think.
Yep.
Was what he
Yep, and
went
so
for.
I knew he's an aggressive player. He sends his Skyfires in, and shoots off the Luminarch. He kills 6 of my 9 Skywardens, and 22 of my 30 Longbeards. And he's pretty proud of himself. And then I ask if he's done.
Sure.
And he agrees, and then I proceed to I shot off all of his Skyfires at the bottom of one.
Sure.
Is of short range shooting, like reasons.
Yeah, just pistols
Yeah.
and
pistols
you
and
see
sky
yourself
hooks
in
and
the
drill
pistol
cannons
smoke,
and
homie.
yeah, all the guns. The double chemist shots and all the guns.
Right.
And they're low armor, so like that neg-1 or like
it's a big deal.
It
Moving
does
that
work
from
on
5 up to
5s.
6 up, you can
Yep.
just sap the unit off. Yeah.
And I deep struck the Volkites like in the back of his line. I hit the Marauders, killed a couple Marauders, not a lot.
Well, it doesn't matter. Once the Skyfires are done,
Yes,
you
it's
defang
it's a cleanup at that point. But to add insult to injury, the Marauders came in, got stuck in,
right.
and threw a couple mortal wounds on like the Shaman. They were like 3 to 6 inches away from the Shaman and the Glimmer.
You mean the Volkites came in?
The Volkites came in like on a flank,
Yep.
and he was real excited. He was super excited about wanting to like shoot off that Gaunt Summoner,
Sure.
or use the Gaunt Summoner to like shoot off a bunch of the Volkites and cut them in half.
To use the Gaunt Summoner's spell.
And do some real damage to those Volkites. But I double turned him.
Sure.
So Kairos got removed. The Volkites used their hand axes to clear the Marauders, and then charged into the 2 heroes.
Right.
Threw shields at one, cut down the other.
Yep.
So I majored, maxed, final game.
Yep.
So Caleb threw the game. Like, I'm pretty sure he did. Like,
Well, I don't know if that's the wrong way to say it.
Okay.
Because I don't think that's the case. Caleb didn't play in the way he probably would have optimally played had you been facing him in game 1.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Right? Yeah. I mean, like, he didn't just throw dice away or something, or just be like, not take attacks, or just kill units errantly. He just sort of like, he just played a way that army is not, he darn well knows that that army doesn't optimally perform in, right? Like, he could have played you in a much more tactically hard-edged way, but whatever. I mean, I get it. Sometimes, like, it's an endurance match, man, on these weekends.
It is.
And I think he felt like he knew he didn't have best, like, he wanted best overall again.
Yes.
Or in the top
I don't
3.
want to besmirch Caleb's name at all. To be clear, he got 2nd place in both of the Vanguard events.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then him and his brother did place something in the...
They took one of the top 3 in the team event as well.
They took one of the top... They took 2nd maybe in the team event as well.
Yes, it was, because I made always a bridesmaid joke to him.
Yeah, we made it the bridesmaid joke, because Caleb did 2nd in all of those events.
Yes.
So...
Which is pretty impressive.
It is. Absolutely. Very consistent performance. So, again, like, I'm obviously being hard on him. Like, I know how good of a player Caleb is.
So how did you do, Tom?
I ended up taking 7th of the 164.
Yep.
Tied for best order general in overall points.
And lost, in overall.
And it
lost
broke
it on
his
the
way.
broke, yeah.
Yeah.
Lost it on the split.
Yep.
which is a real shame.
He had more battle points.
He had more battle points. You had the same overall score.
Yeah. If I had gotten that tertiary objective, it would have.
Yeah, at 1 point you would have had.
1 point, I would have taken best order.
You were literally 1 point away.
Yeah.
From best order.
Yes, and then Joe Cryer was 1 point ahead. And I was tied at best order. Joe Cryer was 1 point ahead. So if I had done that tertiary,
who was in 5th?
I would have jumped to 5th place.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you, I think it's a performance you should be very proud of, because the reality is, if you're sitting up there, this is a 160 person plus tournament, right?
Yep.
If you're in the top 10, then you played 5 pretty great games of Warhammer. Like, it is really hard to have 5 games break completely your way, to not have a single roll, go against you or something like that, right? Like, I mean, that was what you said. Like, yeah, it's 1 point. 1.
Yep.
1 point. Any of a ton of things could have worked differently, and you would have gotten that 1 point. Or not. Or could have lost that 1 point.
Right.
Right? And then, you wouldn't have been in that place at all anymore. So, it's just like, it's easy to... Oh, God, this thing. It's killing me, dude. Oh, jeez. If you would... Look. It is what it is. It's fine. You drive the car. So, at any rate... You can't look back and be like, it woulda, coulda, shoulda, because you're forgetting all of the other woulda, coulda, shouldas that broke your way, right?
Indeed.
But my point is that, like, ultimately the game is random, and anywhere in there, you can't control for all of that, right? It's just how it's going to be.
Yep.
That's an extremely good performance.
No, I agree.
Extremely good.
I agree. Unfortunately, I also made the finalists, like the final 10% of the boards for best appearance, but I didn't make the cut for top 3. So.
Yes, if you, what was it? Adepticon AOS was the Twitter, right? At Adepticon AOS.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you go to Twitter and search for Adepticon AOS, you'll see you can go back and look at all the pairings and the war score links to go look at the results.
Yep.
So there you go. We should have shouted that out like right away, but then everybody would have just went and read what your thing was. And they wouldn't have had to listen to that 50 minutes of riveting content.
Hey. That's what you said you want to talk about.
I did want to talk about it. No, I'm just messing with you.
You want to talk about anything else on Adepticon?
Oh, jeez. Sure. Yeah, so, I mean, overall, it was cool. I picked up some, like, just pick up stuff. Let's talk about that for a moment.
Okay.
I didn't buy a lot of stuff. Did you buy anything? Did you end up buying any of that basing stuff?
No.
I figured you would be a loser.
I was playing too much Warhammer.
So, shout out to, oh crap, now I'm going to forget. Shiny Dragon Combos, thank you. Who gave me a shout out to come to his booth at Miniature Mart. And they had a bunch of 3D printed terrain stuff, like little pieces.
Like basing details.
Basing details, yeah, like that were like $1 a piece. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Like a ton of it for like $1 a piece.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was a buyer, man, at $1. I just started scooping.
I'm sorry that I didn't come back.
So,
yeah.
I got a bunch of columns. Like, you had a bunch of different half-broken and ruined columns and stuff.
Stuff that would be perfect, obviously, for daughters.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I can use those to have witches jumping off of and crap, which I'm excited about. I should have bought more. That's probably where I went wrong. But anyways, so I got that. I'm trying to think of what else I got that was of any interest or value.
Get some paint?
I mean, yeah, I replaced a couple. There's nothing too exciting. Oh, I picked up some new pigment, some weathering pigments from Secret Weapon that I'd wanted for a while. Some like sort of bright blue and bright green pigments that are great for doing oxidation of different types that I want to play around with. So I was happy to get those. I'd been wanting those for a while, but I really didn't want to pay shipping. So I was just like, well, it wasn't like an immediate project I needed them for.
Yeah.
So that was cool. This is obviously the first year that I taught classes at Adepticon. And those all went really, really well. If you were one of my students who came and you're watching this, thank you for both, coming to the event, for coming to the class, for being engaged. I had awesome students who... Why'd you turn this back to cold? I'm cold. So that was all great. and all the classes went really well, and I thought it was fun to do it. I talked to Damon. I'll definitely be doing it again next year. We did a little. This was sort of the first year where they tried the independent classes thing. I can't come to ReaperCon. I would come to ReaperCon and teach, but it's the same weekend as Nova. I don't know why they moved it to the same weekend as Nova. But that is really unfortunate, and I hope that they don't do that again next year. Like, I get it, Labor Day weekend is very appealing, but Nova has been on Labor Day weekend for its existence.
Yep.
So, whereas ReaperCon wasn't. And ReaperCon moved to Nova's date.
Well, ReaperCon used to be in April.
And then they moved to
October. And now they've jumped to September.
Yeah. So, I don't know, man. Like, find a new date, guys. It sucks for a lot of artists because there's a lot of people who wanted to go to Nova, but who've already made commitments to teach in one place or the other. Like, I'm going to be teaching at Nova. I had commitments on the table to teach.
Yep.
So, like, it's
not an option.
That's just what it is. I'm going to hold to my commitments, obviously. So I really hope they move it. But anywho, so the teacher went really well. The independent classes were cool. Had a very fun first independent small class with shout out to Paul Wagner and Martin Orlando and Dave Witek and his son, who all came to visit. There was another gentleman in there too. I apologize, I don't remember your name, but he was also a very cool dude. And so this is a new format they're going to do of and next year they'll be officially integrated into the actual event calendar. But it's sort of intensive classes for people, longer format, more one-on-one style training. They have a slightly higher price point for obvious reasons.
Yep.
But they were really good, and I liked it. I liked that a lot because you can actually get much more one-on-one with students, actually see more specifically. So that all went well. And I already talked to Damon about teaching next year. So
cool.
What else can I waste time on before I talk about the other thing?
People. We met a ton of people like Mitzi and Jimbo.
Mitzi and Jimbo for the first time, who were both fantastic. I mean, those dudes are awesome.
They are.
I'll pick of the week them this week on the show.
Okay.
Remind me.
Yeah.
Because they have a YouTube channel and they did a bunch of daily coverage and they're just fun dudes.
Yep.
Their channel, I was subscriber number 17. Yes.
You got in on the ground
floor investment in their channel. So I hope they keep it up, but that was super fun. I mean, we got to hang out late one night with Pete and Dave, the guy who I can never remember Dave's last name, but the designer who created KO and Shadespire.
You mean that night when Pete trolled me?
That night when Pete trolled you. Made a pretty funny joke, I'm not gonna lie. Because Pete, as you were sitting there.
Yeah, we were all, it was
Pete,
me and us and Domus
a bunch of people sitting around,
Dave Griffin and Tyler Ringel and
Yeah. And Pete looked at you and said...
No, he said, hey everybody, this is Dave.
Yep. I apologize, Dave. I'm so sorry. I can never remember your last name. That's disrespectful, but I'm bad with names. And he said, this is Dave. He designed Shadespire.
And everybody's awesome.
Yeah, right. A little round of applause, which is seriously, the Shadespire was blowing up at Adepticon this year.
Oh yeah.
That dude should be very proud of having that as a design credit. He did great work, and that game is taken off. It's super fun. A lot of people love it. Well done, Dave. And then Pete's he also designed KO, and then looked directly over at you. Did the slow, the sort of Stewie turn of
Yeah. And he's it's your move.
Right. As though he was just so you were reserved.
I was.
So I decided to joke for you, and I said, well, Dave, you've designed a new pillar of Games Workshop's revenue stream, a game that will enduringly last a generation, something that's absolutely fantastic and wonderful. And then you also designed KO, but we can probably forget about that. They can't all be winners, man. Sorry. No, look, I mean, it is what it is. It's a funny joke, but he was a cool dude.
Yeah.
Talked a little bit to him about how they were doing in the 40K tournament.
Yep.
Which I want to see a tournament done like that 40K tournament. It's a 4-player team tournament.
1,000 point each.
1,000 points each player, 2 teams. Okay, so you're playing next to each other, but you're 2 teams. It's not like 4,000 point games. It's 2 games. 2,000 points each, but you're a total team of 4.
And you're rotating through your team members.
Exactly. Each game, you rotate through your team members. So, like, imagine the 4 team members are named A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Game 1 is A, B is a team, and C, D is a team. And then the next game, it's A, C, and, B, D.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. That's super cool. Like, that sounds like a really neat format.
Yep.
And I'm sure it's been around for years.
I think it sounds like a really neat narrative event.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I hope somebody does a AOS tournament like that. Wouldn't be me. It ain't gonna be me. But I hope somebody does. I would play in that. Okay. So that's all of that. Now let's talk about Crystal Brush, because we're gonna have to talk about this.
Yep.
Yeah, so I brought 5 submissions for Crystal Brush this year. All of which were... This is a good year for me as far as what I felt like I was able to accomplish. I started planning for these pieces last summer. I started work on them in November.
Yep.
None of these were toss-off pieces for me by any stretch of the imagination, right? Yep. I take this very seriously. I work very hard on this stuff. That Night Titan, which I'm very proud of.
Your sister's Titan.
My sister's Titan was like 150 hours of work. Not that that matters. The quality of a work is the quality of a work. It doesn't matter if it took an hour or 300 hours. It's irrelevant. Okay, there's nothing about that. So you understand what I'm saying?
I do. I know.
You don't get free credit because you spend a lot of time.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
I have a board that didn't.
Absolutely. So it's about the end product, and what I'm saying is that I felt good about that investment of time and felt like it was the best end product I had ever created.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to put it in perspective.
I agree.
Obviously, the Escher gang, I was very, very proud of with them and their background. I feel like I captured the 80s style very well.
Yeah.
And then I also had the 2 single figure pieces, which I really pushed myself on, but I knew those were going to be tough categories from the beginning. Those have a lot of established people who do very well in them, in that space. And I, frankly, to be very honest, I think the people who do very well in there are better than me.
Yeah.
So, there you go. And I didn't really.
Sorry.
There we go. All right, we're back, hopefully.
Sorry about any delay, folks.
Somebody give me a shout and hopefully tell me we're back. It's doing little circles. Why would we not be there? Somebody comment and tell me we can see it. Okay. Good, thank you. All right. So I had 4 make the cut. And, awesome. There you go. All right. Okay, we get it. Thank you. No, it's awesome. So I had 4 make the cut, and that was On the Hunt, A Red Day Dawns, the Night Titan, and the Escher Gang, Chris and the Replicants. And I didn't have any place in the final 3. That's the short answer. Okay? Now, 50% of this is judges voting, and 50% of this is online voting. That's the story. Whatever I think of that, I'll leave to the side. I'm trying to debate and decide whether or not I want to do a more significant video talking about my deeper feelings on Crystal Brush. I'm a little too close to it right now that I feel like I would say something inappropriate, and I don't want to do that, because the reality is a lot of people put in a lot of time and work very hard and a lot of passion into this.
Yeah.
Okay? And the reality is, to get 4 pieces into the judge's cut is really hard. Like, I don't think anyone else had 4 pieces make judge's first cut.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So, like, that is something I should be very happy about and proud about and all of that. I will say that I think fairly, I was very disappointed to not at least clear a bronze in one of those categories where I do feel like my work was competing on that level. And by the way, I'm not talking about speed. To be like super straight here, I'm not talking about best overall.
Sure, yeah.
There's no way. I'm not in that zone.
Right.
Okay?
You're just saying best in a category.
In a category.
Or even a bronze in a category.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, my goal here was to walk with a single bronze, a third, in one category. I would have been over the moon. Okay? I could have run home had that happened.
Yeah.
And, I've competed in this lots of times. I've competed in a lot of different competitions where I did better or worse than I wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay? You do your best, and that is all you can do.
Yep.
It is handed over completely at that point to someone else. And I accept that, of course. I wasn't there with the judges. I don't know what they judged. What I will say is that taking myself out of the mix completely, there were other pieces that I don't feel got the recognition they deserved by other artists.
Yeah.
There were some of the most brilliant, beautiful pieces that had emotion, that told stories, that really legitimately moved me as a work, that I felt the passion dripped off of the piece. And if this is supposed to be art, when it's functioning at that level,
Yep.
which I would argue it is,
Yep.
I don't know how you could see it as anything else.
Yep.
And by the way, really take me completely out of this. Okay?
Yeah, you're talking about categories that you weren't even in.
Categories I was not in. I feel there were people who did not get the recognition they deserved for the quality of the work they produced. Some of that is due to however things broke. Some of that is due to the nature that this is still an old style format.
And not an open.
And not an open style format.
Yeah.
When you go to Nova, it's an open format.
Gold is gold.
Gold is gold, silver is silver, bronze is bronze.
Yep. It doesn't force a 1, 2, 3.
Correct. If 10 people deliver masterworks, then there will be 10 gold medals. And those people will get the recognition. Right?
Yep.
And that's the open system that's used across a lot of Europe, by the way.
Yeah.
World Expo does it. Monte Sansevino does it. All these competitions do it. Golden Demon still uses an old style, right, as well. But that's Golden Demon. It is an established thing. It works that way.
Yep.
Right? Golden Demon is also a very, 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 very different beast than other painting competitions. And it should be.
Yeah.
It's a specific line of miniatures within a specific aesthetic. Right? And that's why it can still operate like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because your goal in Golden Demon is to paint a single company's miniatures. By the way, Privateer Press runs event like this too, still, with gold, silver, bronze. Okay, because those independent company events still work like that. Your goal is to make the best version of that company's miniature you can.
Yeah.
That's a set of guardrails.
Yes.
Right? That can be very objectively judged and much more easily stacked. I'm not going to say that there never has been a case where somebody who got fourth got robbed or something, and didn't get a clear or bronze demon. That happens all the time. But it's a much different situation than when you say, go nuts, and there's just these, pieces of art that are all over the place, all bumping up against each other in a smaller number of categories and so on and so forth, right? So, whatever. So I was disappointed in that part. I was super happy to get the 4 in. I was disappointed not to clear that. I was disappointed to see other works that I thought should have received better recognition not. Now, to end that little discussion on an extremely positive note, extremely positive, I want to thank everybody who voted, whether you voted for me or not, who responded to the call that I put out and voted and made your voice heard, who walked up to me at the convention and told me they liked something I did or they thought it was good, who sent me a message on the internet and said they loved what I did. That's so much, like, if not for that, I would be super depressed right now. Like, I'm not gonna lie, right?
I had a similar experience today. I didn't know if I was going to win anything or not. I was really, really hoping to place in the painting award. I would have been happy with bronze. But I was approached by one of the Warhammer heroes.
Yeah.
That GW honored. His name was Jind. He's out of Toronto. One of the North American heroes.
Good dude. I talked to him as well.
Yep. He was wearing his, Warhammer hero shirt and had his medal and everything.
If I was that, I'd have that on. I'd have the shirt and the medal on at all points in time and wear it proudly. Like, yeah. I had no issue with that.
Yeah, not at all. He was a cool dude.
Yep.
And he sat there and I walked up to him and they were talking and he was like looking around and I had seen they were looking at my board and I kind of, and he said, "Are you Tom?" And I said, "Yeah." And he was like, "Of course you are." And we got to talking and he said, it was in the midst of finding our show.
Yep.
And particularly our conversations about KO and the work that I did on KO.
Yep.
Both on our show, in the streams with Mitch, and just all of the kind of community stuff I did around KO. That he was like, "You are the reason why me and the rest of our community are now playing Warhammer."
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Because we had left, and we didn't think that AOS was a serious or competitive game until we discovered you guys talking about it.
That's fantastic. Like, that's unreal.
Yeah, and like, this is one of the people at GW. Like, it was.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was super humbling.
Yep.
And it was like, and so for me, like, I was really bummed that I didn't walk away with any hardware. But at the same time, like, the reality is that, like, that's worth more than
100%.
Yeah, any piece of metal.
Yes, I agree completely. Like, in the end, here's the funny part about it. I felt I had a stronger chance this year than I ever did before.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the best work I've ever done.
You did.
Sure.
Yeah.
I felt like I could have had a place in there more than I could have had in any previous year.
Sure.
And I was certainly sad at not placing.
Yep.
But I would say I was much less bummed out because of all of the nice feedback I got from everybody else. And look, part of the reason I do this is certainly because I am addicted to it and I love painting and I love creating this stuff.
Yeah.
But I also want to put stuff out there that people enjoy. Now, that doesn't mean I want everybody to come up and tell me how great I am. That's not what I mean.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's not what I'm asking for.
Sure.
But I will say that it is a wonderful feeling to have somebody walk up and say that they liked work you did. I don't,
Yeah.
In the humblest way I can say it, thank you to everybody who came up to me, who said anything, who sent me any notes, who did all of that. It's more meaningful than anything else. So yeah.
Agreed. So
yeah, if you have if somebody wants to join the PMP, just go look at any PMP video and click the link in there and join, and I'll let you in.
There's a comment.
Yeah, sometimes, like, I've had it happen where, like, I looked and saw somebody request to join, and then I looked again later and they weren't there anymore, but it didn't put them in. So I've had it screw up a couple of times. So if you're somebody who had requested in the past and for some reason it didn't let you in,
yep,
just ask again, and I'll make sure you get in. So anyway, okay. So yeah, there you go. That's that.
We hung out with tons of folks from the UK. Like, there was this huge UK showing.
It really was. All the Face Hammer people came.
Yep.
Obviously, Jimbo and Mitzi, Dan and Wayne was here. Wayne's army was awesome. He had the 90s Skaven done up in the 90s style. It was amazing.
Yep.
He had the old school Doom Wheel. Yep. He had old school Red Ogres converted over to be Storm Fiends. It was wonderful.
Yep.
It brought me back to like
high school.
It brought me back, yeah, to when I was like 18 or 17 or something, and first saw those guys, right?
Yeah.
And I fell in love, and like that was the army I had initially, right there. So, yeah, that was great. Yeah, overall, it was, with some ups and downs.
Yep. I agree.
The best part about this whole thing is always the people.
Yeah, the community is like, dude, yeah.
No matter whatever with all the rest of that.
Yeah.
Look, can you honestly tell me you didn't have a great time every night hanging out with who we hung out with?
It was amazing.
Yeah, like I don't get a chance to see and hang out with.
Like I did dinner with like
everybody, Chuck and Paul and Jimbo and Mitzi and Dan and Wayne and Kelly.
I got to hang out with a lot of the West Coast, like the Rolling
Scott
Bad
Reed
folks.
and Rolling Bad people, and just on and on and on. I'm not mentioning people, and I'm sorry because like I literally cannot mention everybody.
Yeah.
David and Jacob and just everybody,
and
man.
Steve and yeah. Oh.
Like there's so many people that I love hanging out with that are just the best people.
And Alex.
Alex, his wife, who is amazing and who does so much work.
And it was her birthday on Friday.
It was her birthday. Happy birthday. Like, it is an honor to be part of this community and to be with these people. So, yeah, that's what I'll say. AOS Coach, drop your question in the comments when the video posts, and I'll respond in a lengthier fashion. Okay.
Yeah. If you can make it to Adepticon next year, do so.
Yep.
And what we'll do is maybe we'll do a primer sometime of like, how can you prepare for Adepticon? That would be a good
answer. That's a good idea.
That'd be a really good. So like you can begin thinking about like, what do you want to do there? Are you want to compete? Well, how do you want to compete? Do you want to prepare armies? Do you want to are you wanting to, what games do you want to play? Do you want to do
demos? Yeah, do you want to do painting classes?
And know all of that kind of going into your registration. Because a lot of it fills up really quickly, and so you need to plan ahead of time.
Yeah, that's a good call.
We'll do a show on it.
That's a really good idea. We'll definitely do that. All right, so there you go. That's Adepticon. Anything else? Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Domus. Oh my God, giant shout out to Domus for being and he had a lot of help. I can't even remember all the names. But Domus did
Melnick
so much
and
terrain.
Brad and Andrea.
He did like freaking 60 tables worth of terrain. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Domus single-handedly, well, not single-handedly, like him supported by
he led
a host,
the charge.
Yes. Helped us prepare for being able to have a 164-person tournament.
Yes, it could not have happened without him. There would have been blank tables.
Yes, and the hope is that I think that we're going to grow again. So I don't know all the exact plans. I'm sure that Alex would share that, but at some point. But the hope is that we're going to grow.
Yep. All right, all. With that, I think we got to say, let's call it. We can do 300 next year. 300. I'm going to see more people there.
Let's try like 250.
300. So, but thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. How does this stop?
Where's it start?
I don't know. No, you don't want east. You want south. We're going to die now. Excuse us. All right.